guys, thanks for checking out my GTR build. Thanks for coming back and seeing the videos. Now don't forget to subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit that bell button so that you get notified when I put out another video. So today we're going to be reviewing some of the GTR build. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today is the vents off the valve covers, the fuel system, the battery relocation that I did, and as well the CAN system for the Link G4X. And as well I did a few modifications to eliminate the HICAS. And so a lot of jumping around today. There's been a lot of small things that were done on the vehicle that don't really fit into a particular category, but I still think some of the things I've done probably are good to see if you're working on an R32 GTR, and so it'll give you some ideas of what I did and hopefully help you out. So yeah, check out the video. What's up guys, back on the Skyline, working on a few things here that I'll go through. I haven't recorded a lot of stuff that's watching me do what I'm doing because honestly it's just pretty boring stuff. I'm doing wiring, routing sensors, what else, a little bit of fuel system stuff, but not a lot. So let's go over a few things that I've done on the RB26 build. So one of the things I did is I added some nicer looking vents to the valve covers and pulled the stock ones out. So just take a look at the stock vents here. These guys, and you know, truth be told, these things move a lot of air. They're very big. So if you're going to do this, you'd want to go at least -12 coming out of the valve covers, because otherwise it's not really worth it, because you're actually restricting the amount of air that comes out, or oil blow by, whatever it is. So now, so if you're not going to go -12, then you're actually going backwards as far as like usefulness. So I ended up getting the push-in -12 adapters from a company called Speedflow. I'll show you a package here. So these are press-in adapters. You can see the part number there across the top. And yeah, they're pretty, I gotta tell you, they're pretty difficult to get out. So the way that I got the stock vents out is I put a 13mm socket on the end of an extension and inserted it in this hole. Put another one in this hole with an extension because they're pressed in and they don't want to come out. And basically I worked it back and forth like this while I didn't pry up on it, but if I hadn't already painted my valve covers, I probably would have. And eventually they'll pop out, but it's quite an effort. If yours come out easy, then count yourself lucky, because it probably took me 30 minutes above rocking these things, twisting these things back and forth to get them out. So the idea here will be to vent these two guys across the engine bay, and where I eliminated my battery here, probably put a catch can that I'll fabricate out of aluminum. And yeah, so I don't know whether I'll use the true twist lock tubes. I don't know if that's really required. They handle like something like 500 psi, which isn't necessary in this case. These twist lock lines are made for fuel systems with high pressure fuel systems. This is going to be catch can, so it's not going to be needed. So We'll see what kind of hose is available. I mean, I'm only running 2 feet or 3 feet each, so it might not be that expensive to do the true twist lock lines, but we'll see. Now, the other thing that I did on the RB26 is I decided to throw the regulator over here, the fuel pressure regulator. On the fuel pressure regulator, there's the Link fuel pressure sensor coming off the side. Now, on this Aeromotive regulator, it's actually a dual input regulator, so I should be able to see the fuel pressure, the non-regulated fuel pressure, which I'm assuming is what Link wants. So what the pump is making, that's what I should see. And that will also tell the Link ECU what kind of pressure the injectors are seeing. So that'll be prior to the regulator. Now, this was, like I said, it's a dual input regulator. So on the Link system, I had to go from a pipe thread to a -6 ORB fitting. And I actually, the cheapest way to get that fitting is at a hydraulic company that does hydraulic fittings. Going from pipe thread to AN fittings in an automotive parts store is not easy to find, but in the heavy machinery hydraulic side, it is available, and they're cheap. Like, I think I paid $2 for that fitting. When I went to a speed shop, that fitting was 15 or 20 bucks, and it was also 6 weeks away. So I ended up with kind of a raw metal fitting, but I don't care. That's it's the right fitting and it doesn't leak. So I also primed up the pump and made sure that there's no leaks. So the fuel pressure regulator is good, and everything's working. I had to order this fitting off the end of the fuel rail, which has a O-ring on it as well. Goes to a 6 AN male threaded adapter, and just ran a small amount of line across there, and the line across the top. A lot of the line on this setup is rubber. It's a 250 psi flex fuel hose, and I mean, this fuel system's operating at 60 to 70 psi max, and so you do not need a 500 psi line to handle, or sorry, even a 200 psi line to handle a 60 to 70 psi fuel pressure fuel system. So the only reason that I did braided steel line across the top is because it looks good, and that's where the lines are visible. So, 12 inches of line isn't very expensive. A couple of AN fittings, but the rest of the lines underneath the intake manifold are 250 psi flex fuel line, which is plenty as far as pressure is concerned. Plus the rubber line is a little bit more able to be bent, and so my return line is rubber off the bottom of the fuel pressure regulator. I don't know if you can see it down there. Also, with relocating my battery to the trunk, I went to a lug and what I did was I used some eyelets to just pile on that lug. And so I've got welding cable going from here to the trunk. So the welding cable going to the trunk, just by memory, I think it's like a 2 gauge, something like that. Now, I haven't set up the trunk yet, but this is all I got so far. I'm going to clean it up. Basically, I got a negative cable anchored to where the spare tire bolt went to hold the spare tire down. It's actually a great place to ground out a battery as well. And got these off Amazon. Just an aside, I don't really like crimping fittings because they tend, in my experience, they tend to fail. So what I do is I use a large fitting, a large copper fitting, like an eyelet fitting that goes on the end of welding cable, and I fill it with solder, and then I put the wire in there, let the solder cool. Obviously I use some flux and stuff like that to clean everything, and and then I take shrink tube, put it over top, and seal it up. I've never had one of these fail in like 20 years, so it's a great system. So this is what you end up with. It's nice and clean. The other item I did was I ran all of the cables for the Link ECU. So here's one of the cables here, another one here. This is for the CAN system for the heated O2 sensor. Fresh line for the map sensor, which is in the Link ECU case, and I'm going to be putting the board in the case sometime tonight. And here's just a sensor for the Link, the O2 sensor. Now the CAN Lambda, I mounted it over here on the firewall, and so as far as the CAN Lambda is concerned, I did a little bit of reading. Basically what you're getting is a higher resolution signal for the Link ECU, for the air-fuel ratio. And so rather than it being on a 0 to 5 volt scale, it ends up being, I can't remember what the resolution is, but it's a lot higher and a lot faster. The refresh rate's a lot faster in my understanding. So the Link ECU gets a little bit more information, and thus it can adjust itself accordingly quicker. So the CAN Lambda in Canada is about $400 to $500 for everything, but I read all the literature on it. It seems like a good choice. So now the CAN Lambda system requires this guy over here, which I wired in. Okay, so it's a relay, and so the relay, it's not the wiring is not complicated for this system, but it's I mean, it's about 10 wires that you have to sort out, and then you have to run 2 wires to the Link ECU inside the cabin. So you got to run more wires through the wheel well. So all the wires on my Skyline build here, I've gone through here down by the brake booster, and they pop out underneath here. So it's a very very simple way to get into the cabin. We just pulled off the HICAS pump, which is right here, and we're going to be eliminating the HICAS, and therefore we have to do something with the pump. So what I've chosen to do is plug the pump and then remove the vanes from the second chamber in the pump. That way the pump can still do its duty as far as power steering, but the second half of the pump will have no pressure, so it won't be pumping against itself and eventually burn itself out. Okay, so here's the pump that's been pulled out. The second portion of the pump. So basically, the way the pump's divided up is it has two chambers, and you can see by the division here on this Y portion that it's fueling two sides of the pump with fluid. So the front side is for your power steering system. The back side is for the HICAS. Now I've deleted the line here and I've put in a plug. There's the plug to eliminate the line for the HICAS, and that's going to be M16 by 1.5, that plug, and there's a copper washer on there as well. So to pull the vanes out, we're going to have to pull the back off the pump here and take a look at those vanes. Okay, so here's the back of the pump. It's just 4 bolts to get that cover off. And if we look inside, there we go. Okay, these are the vanes. You can pull them out with a magnet. And all that does now is allows the pump to turn, but these vanes aren't engaged, so they're not pushing the fluid. Okay, so that's it. So we'll reassemble that and put it back in the car. So with that, now we don't have to worry that the pump is going to overload itself by just pushing against a plug, which is what it would have been. And that way hopefully we'll get some life out of this pump. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video today. Like I've said before, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell so that you're notified when I put up a new video. And thanks for checking out the GTR build. There's going to be a few more installments of this video series, and hopefully all the way up until having it tuned and seeing what kind of power it puts down. Thanks for watching.